About 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet John formally, and it was through our local lacrosse program. So John was a good friend at that first year, just willing to help us to get the program started. So John and I were talking one day and came to find out he had a business with landscaping. We're very blessed to have a beautiful property here in Eastern New York. It's a very old farm and quite a bit to take care of. So John and I started talking about potentially him working on our property, and John's taken incredible care of our property and treated this property as if it's his own. Back in 2011, LCBC was launching the York campus, and I was fortunate to be a part of some of the activities to prepare the church for the community. Our pastor had asked us to think of somebody that may be far from God who we could invite. I sat there and I had this Sharpie pen and I just started to write John's name. And as I was writing his name and his family's name, I had no idea of what the impact would be at that time. But as we prayed for the people and the names on the floor, that just stuck with me. So I just started to invite John. I reached out to him. There were messages over the years where I really felt like it could help him, because I knew it was helping me. And not really understanding what John was experiencing, I just felt like this is a great message. So I didn't want to pressure him and I didn't want to make it uncomfortable, but I felt I should just continue to invite him. And he was a tough sell. He's been a tough sell for years, but he wasn't ready. There were Sunday mornings, there were some Monday nights where we'd agreed we were gonna go together, and I always felt like it'd be easier if I could pick him up. And so I'd meet him at his house and I'd be sitting in his driveway, and we're getting close to gotta leave on time, and it's just no word. He wasn't coming out. And so I would just leave, but I'd be frustrated. I just stopped trying. I just didn't feel like it was making a difference to continue to try. I've had a history of struggling with anxiety. COVID had a really significant impact on my life. I began to isolate, and as a result, began disconnecting from people. And when you get into this cycle of not being with people, it begins to just make you believe things that aren't true. I experienced this anxiety that leads to this inability to sleep. The more tired I get, the more anxious I become, and it's this awful cycle of just waking up tired day after day and feeling like you'll never be able to get out of it. I'd pushed so many people away that this feeling of disconnect and not belonging and being alone was becoming true. And so before I knew it, I was literally isolated in a whole community of people that saw more in me than I could see in myself. God put John back into my life at a time where I needed him the most. One morning, John was on the property, and there was just something in my heart that said, just walk out. It was probably the most powerful conversation that we've had, to actually recognize that we were both going through the valley, independent of one another, but we were experiencing the same challenges. So John and I were spending some time together prior to the holidays, and I just said to John, I'm like, look, John, I'll be going to the Christmas gathering on Friday night with my family, and just please know, you're welcome to come. You're always welcome to come. And he said no. He said, Bob, I can't, but I would go with you on Wednesday. And I'm like, I'll go with you on Wednesday. From the moment that we sat down, it is probably one of the most memorable experiences I've had at LCBC.
And Jesus is the only one that can give us real permanent rest. Jesus is the only one that can give us what we're looking for to fill that empty space in our hearts. And there is nothing in your box that will give you the rest that you need.
And the message spoke so deeply to me and spoke to John. And so as we began to leave, I just felt it in my heart to invite him to the front of the church. And as we approached, I just had this sense of peace that God was working. And as we stood there, I shared with John that 10 years ago, I had written his name underneath that piece of carpet. And it was at that time that John surrendered his life. And when he said yes to accepting Christ, it was such a gift to be able to be present, to share that gift with him. I consider John to be one of my closest friends. And so if I hadn't gone through my valley, John and I wouldn't have had that experience. And I know that this story wouldn't be possible, but it's really not my story, it's God's story. And I'm grateful to LCBC. I am a life changed by Christ. I know John's life has been changed by Christ. And I understand what I did in 10 years ago, that writing a name, it changed my life. And I know it's changed John's. And I believe it will change others if we have the courage to write the name.